Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we're going to be talking about a growing number of YouTube channels getting hacked and a few steps that you can take to avoid that, Neil Young being a big old dummy, no offense, and a whole lot more, so go ahead and stick around. Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to episode 201. My name Bandrew. This is Says What I. Timestamps in the show notes so you can skip around to whatever you want to hear me talk about. If you want a different version of the show, audio or video, bandrewsays.com is where you can find that. And if you want other educational shows, geeksrising.com. There is nothing really too interesting in the news going on. Everybody's been losing their dang minds over impeachment, which we do not cover. We don't cover politics, so you should not be listening to this if that's what you're looking for. I am going to be going on a few different rants this week based on small pieces of news, so buckle up, I guess. The first thing that I want to talk about is a growing number of YouTubers having their channels hacked. I first started to see this when I saw a growing number of videos being released showing channels being hacked and being converted into Bitcoin or cryptocurrency channels where they would live stream and get a bunch of hatred because it was a hacked account. That's where I first started to see it. But then in the tech scene on Twitter, I started to see more and more people mention how their accounts had been hacked and taken over by companies. So I want to share what I think or how I think this is happening and some steps that you can take to avoid that happening to your channel. I believe that this is happening due to phishing attempts, and I am basing that off of a growing number of phishing emails that I have received over the past couple of weeks. I will read you two emails that I got from YouTube and Google AdSense and share that with you, and then show you how I determined that they were actually phishing emails. The first email is from YouTube. It was sent to my public email address, and it says, "We received a complaint that there were spam videos on your channel. Please check and edit the spam videos we flag by clicking on the link below. Otherwise, if you don't edit the spam videos on your channel will close in 24 hours. Thank you for your patience in this process. Click for details." And the second email is from Google AdSense. Subject: invalid click activity, last warning, and it says, "Invalid click activity detected on your YouTube channel. If you would like to appeal this decision and want your account to be reviewed again, click the link below to complete this form. Otherwise, your AdSense and YouTube account will be suspended due to invalid ad click activity. Click here to go to form." Now, if you're a YouTuber, this can be very alarming because you've put in a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of energy into developing your channel. So when you see an email saying, "Hey, we are going to suspend your account in 24 hours or delete your account in 24 hours, that can put you in a panic. And that is exactly what these phishing want you to do. That's my name for them, phishing. They want you to be in a panic. Because what do you do when you are in a panic? You make bad decisions and ill-informed decisions. Here is how I determined that both of these emails were completely phishing and incorrect and not valid. I clicked on the email address to see what the actual email that came from was. For the email from YouTube, yes, it says the name is YouTube, but the email address is yokolapo8@gmail.com. And the email from Google AdSense, yes, it does say from Google AdSense, but the email address is delbertserena16470@gmail.com. So what these spammers and phishers are doing is either creating dummy accounts or hacking existing accounts and changing the first and last name of that email holder to Google AdSense or to YouTube. And that is what is shown in the from section of an email. They no longer show you what the actual email address is. They show you the first and last name of that email sender. So it's very easy for them to look legitimate because they know that most people will not look at what the actual email being sent is. So here is some advice that I have for you to hopefully help you avoid falling trapped to this, because I have seen a growing number of people falling for this, and I don't understand how or why they are doing it. On your YouTube About page, this is where I believe most of these people are getting email addresses from. They go to your About page and it says business contact. They copy that email address, put it into some folder or put it into some Excel spreadsheet and spam it from a bunch of different accounts. Don't use your email that you use to log into your YouTube account on the business contact page. Make sure it is a completely separate email. That way, if YouTube or Google emails you at that business contact, you know that it is not from Google or YouTube. If Google or YouTube need to get in contact with you, they will contact you at the email address that was used to set up your YouTube account. That's the first way, and it is very, very easy to do. Just change that. They won't email you on this random email that you set up. Google and YouTube, if it is a legitimate request, will send an email to your actual YouTube account. So do not make that email publicly available. Easy solution there. The second tip that I have is something that I have been screaming about for years upon years upon years. Turn on two-factor authentication on your YouTube account. It is very simple to do. It does make it slightly more inconvenient when you are signing into your account, but that is the entire point. You want to make it impossible for somebody else to log into your account, even if they have your email and login information and your password. What two-factor authentication does is require that you enter a second piece of information that either only you have access to, or by plugging in a physical device that only you have access to. There are SMS-based options where when you log in, they can send an SMS-based text to your phone. I do not recommend that because these cell phone companies can be socially engineered into sending out a new SIM card to some random person thinking that it is you. Then once that person has your SIM card and they try to log into your account, their new phone will get your text message with the OTP, with the one-time password. They log in, no problem. That's why I do not recommend SMS-based 2FA. I recommend either an OTP generator, whether it be Authy or Google has one, or even more importantly, or even better, would be require a physical two-factor authentication token. I like YubiKey. I think Google released one as well. I can't remember the name of it, but it is very easy to do. You can get a couple of them, throw one in a safe deposit box, have a few others on your keychain and one on your computer or whatever, just to ensure that only you are able to actually log into your account. By having a physical two-factor authentication requirement on your account, even if somebody has your login email and your password, they cannot log into your account unless they find you in person and steal your two-factor authentication token. That is the benefit of it. You still don't want that information to get out there, but this will help ensure that if you are a little bit lax with your decision making, they still can't get access to it. The third piece of advice is probably something everybody should know and should follow, but it doesn't seem like people do. Do not click links in emails from people that you have no idea who they are. Only click links in emails from people that you trust. It's as simple as that. If I were to click on these links in these fake emails I received, I am sure it would have taken me to some login page that looked very legitimate. It probably would have looked exactly like Google's login page. I would have entered my credentials, and guess what? Now these phishers have access to my accounts. Or I saw somebody post on Twitter, I can't remember who it was. They said it's possible that they scrape your computer's cookies or your browser's cookies, and that can allow them to find the cookie associated with your login and completely bypass the need for a two-factor authentication verification thing. That seems scary to me. So just do not click any links from people you don't know and that you don't trust. Only click links from people you know and trust. It's as simple as that. I think I said that about 15 times to get it through everybody's skulls. I can't believe people still do that. I'm sure I've done that in the past too. And fourth, this is exactly how I found that these were phishing emails. When you get an email from an official account with a link saying click here to log in, before clicking any links, click on the email address and see who actually sent it. Because as I mentioned, it is very easy to make it seem like an email is coming from an official place just by changing the first and last name on the sender's email. I could send you an email from my email address, update my name to Google AdSense, and then when you get an email, it will say it's an email from Google AdSense, not from blah, blah, blah at blah, blah, blah.com. Just do all of those 4 steps that will decrease your likelihood of your YouTube account or any of your social media accounts being hacked. But most importantly of all of those, I think set up 2-factor authentication on every single account that you can. Because then even if there is a data breach where your username and password are leaked, they cannot access your account unless they track you down in person and steal your physical token. There you go. I just wanted to rant about that and pass off a PSA. It's a public service announcement. This has been a public service announcement from Angry Bandrew. There you go. Next, Neil Young. Neil Young, you are so wrong. How could anybody be so wrong, you idiot? Neil Young, what are you on? I never thought I would be screaming at Neil Young and calling him dumb or an idiot. I'm sure he's a really bright guy, but this take that he has, absolutely ridiculous. This comes from a very recent Vergecast, and Neil Young called the MacBook Pro audio Fisher-Price quality. Let me go ahead and play this clip for you. This is from the Vergecast, a property of Vox.com or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what disclaimers I need to include. Here it is.
So many artists today write their songs on tour in a hotel room on a MacBook. They're not starting with the big analog studio. They're not starting with tape. They're starting digitally. Does that carry through? Is it even worth it to talk about the output format when, it's teenagers in bedrooms writing hits right now?
What's the problem with teenagers in bedrooms writing hits?
Well, they're starting on their MacBooks, recording straight to MP3.
Yeah, I know, but if that's what they want to put out as a record, that's a problem.
Right, but I'm saying, look, I'm looking at the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. Right? Apple gave me a review in it. They said, look at all the artists who use this thing with GarageBand to start, right? But you're saying that shouldn't be where recording starts.
It's a piece of crap. Are you kidding? That's Fisher-Price quality. That's like Captain Kangaroo, your new engineer. The MacBook Pro, what are you talking about? You can't get anything out of that thing. The only way you can get it out of it is if you put it in. And if you put it in, you can't get it out because the DAC is no good in the MacBook Pro. So you have to use an external DAC and do a bunch of stuff to make up for the problems that the MacBook Pro has. Because they're not aimed at quality. They're aimed at consumerism. That's what Steve Jobs told me. He told me that exact thing.
All right, Neil. Okay. Let me set things straight. First, I think Neil was a little bit misleading by saying that people are recording direct to MP3. People are not recording direct to MP3. People are recording in lossless. At minimum, 16-bit 44.1. I don't think you're even able to record to MP3 in GarageBand or Logic or Reaper. Maybe you are. I've never done it. I don't think anybody does that. People record direct to a lossless file, and that is a far cry from an MP3. MP3 is clearly a trigger word for Neil Young because Neil Young has his Poco player, which is a lossless high-res audio player. So when he hears MP3, he automatically thinks absolute trash. But nobody is recording to an MP3. They are recording to WAV. If anything, they are then bouncing it down to MP3 to stream it on Spotify. But if they are releasing a master, they are not down mixing to an MP3. They are down mixing to a lossless WAV file or a FLAC file. I think that was a bit misleading. But here's the thing that really bothers me about what Neil Young says. He says, if you put it in, you can't get it out because the MacBook Pro's DACs are trash. You need some kind of magic external box to get the audio out. Oh, a magic box? Like the magic box you need to connect any microphone to the computer? Like that kind of box? Is that what you're talking about? That kind of magic? Oh my God, what an absolute idiot. Or maybe I'm the idiot, because what I have always done when I want to record high quality audio is I grab my Neumann U87. I run it through an $800 preamp. Then out of that, I run XLR to 3.5 millimeter direct into my MacBook's headphone jack. That's how I have always recorded high quality audio. And when I have gone and recorded in studios, that's what they've always done. If only there was some kind of magic box that's required to connect a microphone to the computer that has high quality preamps, high quality headphone amps, high quality analog to digital converters, and high quality digital to analog converters. If only that type of box existed. Alas, it does not. So everybody, go grab your U87s and let's bypass the preamp even. Let's just grab the U87, one of those XLR to 3.5 millimeter cables, and plug it directly into the computer, because that's what Neil Young thinks we do. Neil, are you high? What are you talking about? You idiot. I know you're not actually an idiot. I think you are just being hyperbolic, or you just have some misconception about what people are doing. Of course, if somebody is recording professional audio, they have an external audio interface with high-level analog to digital and digital to analog converters. I can guarantee you that. Nobody is going in to a professional studio recording audio, plugging a microphone into the 3.5 millimeter TRRS jack. I'm rambling now. I'm ranting now. Neil Young, you are 199,000% wrong here. Now, to be clear, yes, the A to D converter or the D to A converter on the MacBook's 3.5 millimeter input, probably not the best. But if you are a professional, if you're recording music, you aren't using that. That's the disconnect. And Neil Young, whatever, man, whatever. You were just... I don't get it. I don't get what you're on about. That's all I got for news and rants and everything. Let's jump to what you had to say. And the first comment comes from Melbourne Moon. He says, "Greetings, curious as to your opinion. I recently bought a Motu M4 based partially on your review, and I am loving it. However, I must admit the SSL 2 Plus has me curious. I only have a couple more days that I could possibly return and exchange the Motu for the SSL. I totally understand that you haven't actually used the SSL, but I'm curious what you would do in my shoes if you could only pick one. On overall specs and features, it seems the Motu M4 more than holds its own. My current primary mic is the Rode NT1. Any advice appreciated. Really enjoy your videos. Thanks." Melbourne Man, very, very good question. I know I answered you in the comment, but I wanted to share my opinion on this show for anybody else considering this. I think that the only real benefit to the SSL would be the fact that you get the warm and fuzzies knowing you have a piece of SSL gear, or if you desperately need the real-time 4,000 channel strip processing that is available, which you're not able to adjust as far as I know. The Motu is phenomenal, and I think the feature set on the Motu is ultimately better for most people because it does have loopback. It has much more granular meters. It has an on-off switch. It has about 10 features that I think are essential for an audio interface. The SSL, although very nice and cool to be able to say, yes, I own an SSL. Yes, I finally own one, and it didn't cost you $10,000. I understand the desire for it, but I think the only real benefit there would be maybe slightly more gain or a slightly lower noise floor, and the 4,000 channel emulation. But other than that, if I had to pick between those two and I was not driving some kind of super gain hungry microphone like the SM7B or the SM5B, I'd still go with the Motu M2 or the Motu M4 in your case, because I think that is just better all around in terms of specs, based solely on specs, because I haven't used the SSL yet. I am sure the SSL will be really, really cool if you want that coloration, that SSL 4,000 channel emulation, but other than that, the Motu M4 will treat you amazingly well for years and years to come. It's a stellar piece of gear. Hope that helped clarify to anybody who's interested in that. Best of luck to you making that decision. Next comment comes from Josh Embry. He says, I hear the noise. Sounds like fans running very quietly. Possibly something in the rack, but it might just be self-noise. I had to nearly deafen myself, and it's only audible when Bandrew stops spreading. Spreading? What are you on? I'm not, even if I was man-spreading, how dare you shame me for that? I am in my studio. I can man-spread as much as I want. I'm assuming he meant speaking. We all know he meant when I stop speaking, you can hear it. I will be quiet. Do you hear it? I am guessing if there is any kind of hiss, there is a very, very, very quiet fan in the computer running right now. It almost sounds like a drive spinning, but very quiet. I also have a NAS on the other side of the rack, which doesn't sound like it's on right now. But that could be causing some of that noise. Very, very quiet though. So I don't know. If you have to deafen yourself by cranking the volume to even hear it, I'm not that concerned with it because I don't think anybody is going to be doing that in a real world situation, thinking, I am going to listen to this at a deafening, painful, damaging level so I can hear if there's any background noise. If that's what you have to do to hear it, I'm not at all concerned. Thank you very much. Next comments come from Soundspeeds. He says, Bandrew, about 25 years ago, I was in a recording studio and noticed that their racks of analog gear didn't have power switches. When I asked why that was, the owner reached up and flipped the master power switch on the rack and everything went off. He then flipped it back on and everything came back to life. He didn't say a word, but that spoke loudly to me. Power gear doesn't require a lot of power, and running it all into the same strip is quick to control, easy to use, and ensures that all the gear is grounded properly. I'd imagine that if you have multiple pieces of sound gear without power switches, you should want to run them through a power conditioner or something. I've done that on my DJ sound system for years. By the way, you may identify as a boomer, but I'm one for real. Not only that, I'm a Gen X boomer. Take that, Mike boy. Mike boy? Mike boy? Mike boy? How dare you, Alan? Here's my issue with that idea. I understand it. It makes perfect sense. But if you only have one or two pieces of gear, it seems a bit excessive to have to go out and buy a power conditioner strictly for that, especially if you're on a super tight budget. I know plenty of people who buy the DBX, and that is the only piece of outboard gear they have, and they don't want to go out and buy a power conditioner just for that. Also, they don't want to run it into the power strip and have to turn that off because that power strip might also be controlling their computer. And while they're not using their DBX, they might want to use their computer. So I think it does make sense, but in the grand scheme of things, more towards the budget stuff, I think it is beneficial to have power switches on all of the gear. I know that the LA610 has a power switch. The WA73 EQ has a power switch. The Universal Audio X8 has a power switch. The Focusrite 18920 has a power switch. The Neumann KH80s have power switches. Everything has a power switch except for a few things, a few devices, and it seems like it would be beneficial. I like having a power switch on the preamps because the LA610 Mark II is a tube preamp. If I am not using that, I don't want the tubes running and heating up the room and also shortening the lives of those tubes because tubes do have a life They don't run forever like some Transformers or some solid-state gear. They actually will die. They will burn out. And I don't want to be running them if I am not using them, because I want the tubes in this thing to last as long as possible. That's why I think it is nice to have power switches on everything. On everything. We got a second comment on that from Second Time Tech, and he says, Bandrew and sound speeds. That is what we did when making rack-mounted systems. The rack had a mains power switch on it. Sometimes one or two pieces of equipment had a power switches, so we just left it turned on. Oh, and by the way, most rack-mounted equipment I worked on, if they had a power switch, it was most likely on the back, because if you were swapping it out, you would be at the back of the rack anyway, unplugging everything so it was more convenient there. Oh, Bandrew, get a good power bar and use it. I got one that can leave some outlet left on and turn offs, the others with an eco switch. In case you need to leave some equipment running, I got it at Best Buy, works great. Second Time Tech, that sounds like a perfect solution. That might be something I look into. It would be nice to have a power bar, a power conditioner with power switches for each of the devices that are plugged in, because there are some power conditioners I have around here that control NASs and my network equipment that I don't want turned off. There's stuff that's connected to the computer itself, the speakers. It's just very all over the place on what I want to turn off and turn on and what I want to be powered on all the time. And the rack gear, I use it a few hours a week. I don't want it running 40 hours every single week, or 24 hours a day rather. I don't know why I thought that the rack just turned on during normal business hours. I don't want that. I want to be able to shut it all off. And I also run stuff through the power conditioner that cannot be turned off, which is why I can't. That's why I have stop taped over the power switch, because I can't turn that off without damaging stuff. Thank you very much for the comments. And that is it for what you had to say. Let's jump to my favorite part of the show, the Ask Bandrew segment. Alrighty, if you have any questions, go ahead and head over to askbandrew.com. You can send in a voice, a video, or a text-based question, and I will most likely answer it on an upcoming episode of the show. So go ahead and send that in and save me from having to make it an audio or a video, and I will love you forever. First submission comes from Squash. Take it away, my good-sounding, good friend, Squashy boy. Take it away!
Hey, Bandrew, it's Squash, and I just want to say thank you for all the informational content that you produce on behalf of the thousands of people who you've helped. I think it's safe to say we all appreciate it, and appreciate you quite a lot. But unfortunately for me, I wasn't so lucky to find you early enough. So I've been watching you for probably about 2.5 years, but I've been trying to live stream for 3, and audio is very important to me. As a matter of fact, it was my voice that kind of got me to want to live stream in the first place. I'd be working at Walmart, and customers would comment on it. It's a very weird experience, but I thought, hey, maybe I should put my voice out there a bit. And it's been extremely beneficial to do this, and you've helped me, I guess, make the product that I'm putting out there so much better. But in the process of figuring out what to get, I made a myriad of just horrible purchasing mistakes, bouncing from the Blue Snowball to the Blue Yeti to the Rode NT USB to the Rode Procaster, which I didn't think fit my voice at all. And now I've finally got a setup that's good for live stream podcasting and just live streaming in general to my ear. My question for you is, for somebody who's just getting started like I was 3 years ago, what's the worst piece of advice that you hear other people give out on a routine basis that you wouldn't recommend? And on top of that, what is a piece of beginner advice that you think is severely underrated and overlooked by people? Thank you for listening, Bandrew. This has been Squash, and you have a good one.
Squash, thank you so much for the very kind words. That really does mean the world to me, knowing that the videos I've put out have helped people. That's why I do it, and it always makes me feel warm and fuzzy knowing that it actually accomplished that. So thank you very much for saying that. I appreciate you so much. And if anybody is interested, if I remember, I will link Squash's Twitch channel if you want to check that out and listen to his awesome, awesome voice. He sounds so good. Some bad advice that I hear far too often, or I see implemented far too often. It's easy. Streaming is easy. Producing YouTube videos is easy. That's less of a advice. That's less of a piece of advice and more of a statement. It's not easy. If you want to produce high quality stuff, it takes a very long time to develop the skills to stream well, and also a very long time to develop the skills that are required to produce high quality on-demand video. All of these things are very difficult. You are doing 5 or 10 different jobs. You're doing marketing, you're doing audio engineering, you're doing cinematography, you are doing hosting, you are moderating your chat. You have to do so many things that it is, even if you're amazing at one of them to start off, it's an uphill battle. There is a lot that you have to learn, so it is not easy. And I think that is one of the most detrimental things that people say. It's easy to do this. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's fun. Absolutely, it's fun. But it will take a lot of work to fine-tune your skills and get to a point where you are producing high-quality content. Another piece is you don't have to edit. I don't have to edit. Look at Joe Rogan. He doesn't edit his show. You're not Joe Rogan. You're not Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak. You absolutely need to edit your show because you don't have 10 years experience speaking into a microphone to get good. In 10 years, maybe. In 10 years, maybe you can forgo editing for on-demand content. For live streaming, obviously you can't edit. But if you are a streamer and you want to produce YouTube videos to drive traffic to your live stream, you absolutely will have to edit. You can't just re-upload a 3.5-hour stream or an 8-hour stream on YouTube and expect it to go over well, because the appeal of being in those live streams is the live interaction with the host, and that is not there on a VOD. Therefore, unless you are an insanely interesting person that is interesting every single minute of every single stream, you will benefit from editing. Even Destiny, that political streamer guy, he edits his stuff down, or he has an editor edit his stuff down into bite-sized chunks that are more interesting and consumable based on the platform they are on. So even somebody who has been doing this for nearly a decade edits his streams down to something that is more consumable and more fitting for the platform it's going on. So the idea, oh, you don't have to edit, that's ridiculous. Also, another piece, I have a lot of bad advice that I've heard. Just get a Yeti because it can record everybody's voice. I mean, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It absolutely can and will record everybody's voice. But it's going to sound bad. I hate that. Just, get the Blue Yeti, set it in between you and your 6 friends and record. Cool. Don't do that. The other bad piece of advice is, this is me just projecting. This is totally me projecting. People would love to hear all your friends super drunk and rambling. I don't know if anybody's ever said that, but it seems like people say that based on the number of people who think a bunch of drunk friends rambling on their show would be interesting. The number of people who think that's going to be a good show. There has to be somebody saying this would be a good idea. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. That's the bad advice that I hear far too often, but more just the bad habits that I see far too often. Now, as far as underrated advice, I went the route of pieces of gear. I think that's what you asked. I could listen back. I'm not going to because I am bad at what I do. I think I'm better than bad. I'm better than bad, okay? I think the Samson Q2U, ATR 2100 USB, AT2005 USB, and Behringer XM 8500 are all very underrated pieces of gear for beginners. Now, since you are a member of the Discord channel And if anybody out there listening to this is a member of the Discord, the Podcastage Discord, you may be thinking, what are you smoking, Bandrew? We recommend that all the time. It's not underrated. I will ask you to go to a Best Buy or a Guitar Center and tell me what microphones are being sold there. None of those microphones, the ATR 2100, the Q2U, the AT 2005, the XM 8500, are not sold in Best Buy or Guitar Center, where the majority of people, at least in the States, are buying their audio equipment. The stuff that is being sold there are Blue Yetis, Blue Snowballs, Blue Snowball Ices, Blue Raspberries, and occasionally a Samson G-Track Pro or some other Blue Yeti ripoff that is a subsidiary company of Best Buy. Those are the microphones that are most popular at those stores. So although in our circle, it is clear that there are really great pieces of gear that are cheaper than what is popular and will provide you with better results than what you would get from something that is popular, I think we still have a big uphill battle to let people know, hey, the Blue Yeti might not be the best option for you based on your situation. There are cheaper options that will sound better. So I think those really are the most underrated pieces of gear. I wish I had something more interesting because I know you are in the Discord and you probably knew I was going to say something like that. I wish I had something cool. I guess I'll give you one piece of advice, an underrated piece of advice that I would give, because a lot of people seem to just want to create stuff. They don't know what. Make something that you actually care about. I am pretty passionate about this idea where if you're starting to create something, it should be because you love it, as opposed to, hey, this is popular, I want to create this. That's a very bad route to go down because it can take a very long time. In most cases, it does take a very long time to grow an audience, and it can be very disheartening in the first year or two where you're getting 0 views creating something, and if you don't love what you are creating, you are going to quit, most likely. So you need to have that passion for what you're creating content about prior to starting to create content. The number of people who have said, I want to make a podcast or I want to make a YouTube video, what do I talk about? That's the worst place to start. You should not be starting a YouTube channel or a podcast because you want to start a YouTube channel or podcast. You should want to start a YouTube channel or a podcast because there's something that you love so much that you want to scream it from the top of mountains. That's why you start one of these projects. You don't do it because you want to start one of these projects with no direction. You start it because you want the world to know what you love and you want to share information and your passion with somebody. Don't say, I want to start a podcast. What's popular right now? I'll talk about that, even though I don't care about it. That's a terrible, terrible idea. So when you are starting any of these projects, start it based on something you love and something you would be willing to talk about when nobody is listening. Because as I have said in the past, when you start out, nobody is going to be listening. Squash, thank you very much for that voice submission. You sound wonderful as always and really top-notch questions. I appreciate. Next, we got a voice submission from the eldest boy. Take it away, eldest boy. Wow, 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 wow.
Greetings, Bandrew. Eldest here, and I have a question for you. So, my question is, what would you think about a VPN provided from Google? Okay, because that is exactly what I get using my Google Pixel 3 on Google Fi. So, in the Google Fi app that comes with your phone when you get set up with Fi, it has a network tool called Enhanced Network. And what that says in the app, here, I'll read it from the app itself. It says, get more privacy and more security. Your Wi-Fi and mobile network data is sent through Google's Fi virtual private network. And then below that, it says, use mobile data when Wi-Fi is poor. So it says, get fewer connection interruptions by more quickly connecting to mobile data when Wi-Fi is poor. So what I'm concerned about is that it's a VPN provided by Google, and we know how Google loves their data on people. Well, the reason why they have this set up for people is because the way Google Fi works is they run off all three major, not Verizon, but all three major cell towers. And since they don't own those, the traffic is still sent through their services and scrubbing for data as well. And this is protect you from them. So I just want to hear what you think about this, Bandrew, because I know how security conscious you are. That's all I have. Apriya.
Eldest boy, thank you so much for the video submission. You are an absolute mad lad, legend, just wonderful human being who I appreciate so much. Eldest is part of the Fourth Wall Alliance if you want to check that out. And I will link it in the show notes. To answer your question with a question, or at least to start off answering your question with a question, I would ask, who are you trying to protect yourself from with this VPN? If you are trying to protect yourself and hide what you're doing from your ISP or other nosy Nellies on the same network as you, then absolutely I am sure that it would work perfectly fine because it is protecting other people from seeing what you're doing on the internet. If that is your goal, I see no problem with it. But if you're trying to protect yourself from Google and hide what you're doing on your phone from Google, I don't think a Google VPN will do much for a few different reasons. I haven't read Google's VPN TOS or EULA, but I'd guess that it is not a zero knowledge provider, meaning they likely can see everything that you do that is being piped through their VPN. And it's likely that they don't delete that information either. They use that to build a profile on you and market to you. That would be my guess. I am not saying that's a fact. I have not read their terms of service, but that would be my expectation based on their prior behavior. Even if it is an end-to-end encrypted, zero-knowledge provider, I don't think it would help because you are using an Android phone, which is owned by Google, and Google likely sends all the telemetry data of what you do on your phone back to themselves. Therefore, even if you are using any VPN, chances are Google still knows exactly what you're doing because you are using Google's operating system. So I think that if you are using Google's VPN to protect yourself from other people on the network, absolutely. If you're using it to protect yourself from Google, I think you would be out of luck. If you do want to protect yourself from Google, first off, you would have to switch off of Google-owned devices and off of Android because those are all Google properties, and they are collecting data on everything that is done on those devices and those operating systems, and then you would need to get a third-party VPN. But the issue with third-party VPNs, there are a growing number of them, and a lot of them, in my eyes, seem very, very shady, and I don't trust them. First off, you need to look at where the VPN is headquartered and determine if you want the location to be or the headquarters to be in the Five Eyes or Nine Eyes or outside of that jurisdiction. If you don't know what those are, I think it's Five Eyes and Nine Eyes. Those are groups of countries that have certain regulations that make them not the best decision for privacy-conscious people because the government can, I guess, subpoena the companies and ask for data. That's why zero-knowledge providers are very important because everything is encrypted and then they delete that data after a set amount of time. Also, as I mentioned, you would need to read the EULA, the End User License Agreement, and the TOS, the Terms of Service, to ensure that everything is truly end-to-end encrypted and they are zero-knowledge. And if it is an open source VPN, that's even better because then that code could be audited and it could be verified that everything is properly encrypted. They aren't storing anything, and that would be best. And lastly, you have to trust the company because you're trusting what they say, and who knows if what they say is true. That is why it is difficult. So would I use a Google VPN? Maybe. I don't like the idea of giving Google even more of my information. That scares the crap out of me. But if I had to trust a company with the security of my data, knowing that they are likely keeping it, I think Google is pretty high on that list of companies that I do trust. Now, let me note, it's not me trusting them to not collect my data. I know they are collecting every single iota of data that they can and creating some kind of creepy profile that knows more about me than I know about myself. I'm fully aware of that. But I trust Google to keep that information more secure than I trust VPN X, Y, or Z that's located in Ukraine or Tel Aviv. Mainly because Google is large enough where they have a lot of people looking at them, and when they make a mistake, they get a lot of pushback. So they are going to be much more incentivized to ensure that customer data remains secure. Whether or not they are collecting it, that's a different story. We're not talking privacy, we are talking security. And I think Google is a very secure company for that data. That's my take on it. Eldest, thank you so much for the question. What a fun question. And I got to put on my tinfoil hat for a little bit. My tinfoil hat has been a missing. Thank you very much to everybody who sent in questions and comments. You are all amazing. That is all the news that I have. 2 announcements. Giveaways. The very first giveaway of 2020 was for the Deity S-Mic 2. Deity, thank you so much for contributing that microphone for the giveaway. I appreciate you so dang much. You are amazing, and I couldn't have done that without you. And we started 2 new giveaways for February. I teamed up with Neat Microphones for the Neat King B. King B Hype. What a great microphone for $100. It's insane. Giving away one of those. And then I also teamed up with Acusonus to give away 10 Era plugins. So you can enter, and there will be 10 winners for that. So 10 people will win one Era plugin. And we got those. So go to podcastage.com/giveaways. Last thing, if you look behind me, if you can see, if you're watching the video, you will see this beautiful, beautiful tape deck, this reel-to-reel machine. I haven't even turned it on, but I got my hands on it. And that's a hint. That's a hint on a project that I will be doing for this podcast in the future. Wink, wink, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, whatever you want to do. I just got to buy some tape, some reel-to-reel 1/4-inch tape. And it's got microphone inputs, a stereo. Oh, I'm so excited. It's going to be so cool having a tape machine just go in the background. I cannot wait. It's going to be so cool. All right. That's it for this week's episode of the podcast. Sorry I missed last week. I was under the weather and I didn't want to push myself too hard, ultimately prolonging my sickness, my illness, which would potentially lead to me missing more time. Thank you for sticking around. I will talk to you next week. I love you. Bye. That's me waving in a weird way, not honking your bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.